Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. Today's show is being produced for GoodCrowd.info, and I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. Our guest today is Alexia Anastasio, who is an actress, producer, director, all-around independent filmmaker with a tremendous track record in film, and she has also found success with crowdfunding and now spends a lot of her time teaching other people how to do crowdfunding. Alexia, thank you very much for joining us. We're so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here.
It's great, and I am so grateful that you would be here. So tell us a little bit about, Alexia, how you got started in film.
Oh, well, I mean, it would have to say, started all when I was about 11. I wanted to be, or I found out I wanted to be an actress. And I started with theater, but then I found, like, that film, you could do it as a team, and you can incorporate art and kind of work with all your friends and do it a lot faster and just, like, when you want to. So I was like, that sounds like way more fun than like grueling every day to a show, and then like waiting to put it on, and then you put it on for like a couple of weekends, and then it's gone. Yeah.
Right.
So it became this opportunity to meld a lot of my interests because I'm an artist and an actress. So I'm like, oh, perfect. I'm like, filmmaking is I can direct, I can decide what I'm going to do story-wise, I can act in it, I can play with the colors, I can invite my friends. I'm like, sounds good to me, right? So that's really when it started. You know, I was about 17, and I went to SUNY Purchase, and I loved it. I was a new media major. I was just diving into everything, all the new stuff, and I still am, because it's still new. And I've produced 8 feature films now, and I just love it. I just eat it up.
What's been your biggest success?
I would have to say my documentary on Bill Plimpton. It's been out for about 2 years now. It's on Hulu. You could watch it for free there, or on Vimeo. You could rent it for only $2.99 all around the world. And I've gotten a lot of like awards, and it's gotten into over 40 festivals. It's played for a week at some places, and for me, I mean, it's a documentary about an Oscar-nominated animator, but he's just an example of somebody who lives the art life, a full-time artist for the past.
Oh no, Alexia, we seem to have lost you
5
there.
years, and just weird and wacky.
Are you with us?
Yes.
Sorry. So tell us a little bit more about Bill. You were talking about the film, and you were talking about the kind of artist he was.
Yeah, he is. He still works today. He's does surreal work, you know, weird and wacky stuff, but he gets to do that every day. He's a full-time artist.
And he one of the interesting things, I watched your film, it's very interesting. One of the interesting things about him is he doesn't use much of the digital media. He's kind of old school animation, right?
Yeah, he does all the hand-drawn animation, and then he gives it to his team, who puts it together on the computer and does the coloring and editing and adds the sound and all of that.
Oh, I see. Well, it was certainly a fascinating film. What got you started using crowdfunding for your films?
Well, exactly that film is what got me started in 2010. I needed to finish the film. It was my first directorial debut of a feature film, and I'm like, oh, I spent like 2 years on this film already, and people are waiting for it, and I gotta get it out there. So, but you know, it costs money to rent a green screen studios and sound and insurance and all these things that you don't really think about when you start. So luckily, crowdfunding came along at this time, and a couple of friends of mine had some success. So I'm like, all right, well, you know what? And this was actually back when you still needed a permission or like an invite to Kickstarter. So I had gotten an invite from one of my friends who I backed her film. And that's when I started. I had an 88-day campaign, which you can't even have anymore. It started at San Diego Comic-Con, and it ended at New York Comic-Con.
How fun. How fun. And how much money did you raise in that campaign?
I raised $10,000.
That was probably a vitally important $10,000 for getting that film made.
Exactly. And because of that, people knew I was looking for money, and they told me to apply for a grant, and then I got that grant.
Oh, so it was strategically important as well as being financially important.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it was definitely part of the marketing of the film. I didn't even realize all that effort and all that energy that I was putting towards the campaign was just the start of getting the word out.
Sure, sure. Well, you've done a lot of crowdfunding. You've coached a lot of people through crowdfunding. You've trained a lot of people. Let's talk a little bit about some of your top insights. So let's take 3, for instance. What are the top 3 lessons you've learned about crowdfunding that you would share with other people?
Sure. Well, the top one is the mindset. You know, the crowdfunding campaign is the most stressful experience you could ever have, nor in a normal life, basically. It's grueling. So, like, when you're sitting alone, with your laptop in front of you, it's just like you think, you're like, am I the only one who cares about this project? And you find out that, thankfully, that you're not. And there are people that want your product or your film, in my case, and it's great to find that out. So have basically certain like daily rituals that you do to kind of get yourself out of in front of the computer, first of all. If it's a dance break, if it's a walk, if it's a daily meditation practice, taking a bath, you know, like anything. And for me, in the first campaign, not only was I just starting to learn to meditate, I do transcendental meditation, but doing fun music videos is what got me through my campaign, because right in the middle I didn't think I was going to make it, and I was just like, I was breaking plates, literally, and I had a meltdown. And basically I took a break, I entered a music video contest, and I dressed up like a cow. And I won that contest. We got the audience award. I won $300. So it really boosted my spirits back up, which is what helped me finish the campaign off. And I wore that. Then when I wore that cow outfit, I felt like a different spirit. So I started wearing that out to New York Comic Con and to some of other Bill's screenings, and that really helped me say, like, okay, well, I'm going to give a flyer out. People are going to take it more from a cow than just from a random person who's trying to make a film.
So mindset is the first of your 3 tips. What would be the second?
Yeah, it is planning ahead. My dad's an architect, and so one of the key things that he taught me is to plan ahead. So plan out your marketing strategy for your entire 30 days, whether it's like how much time you're going to spend every day on social media, who your team is going to be, everything like down to the button, because like the more you plan it out beforehand, the less stressed you're going to be during the campaign.
Yeah. Boy, that's certainly consistent with my experience. So what's your 3rd tip?
My 3rd tip is to do a launch event. I love parties, and most people do. So now my second campaign, actually, I failed miserably, and I thought, like, oh, wait a minute, I have my film on the festival circuits playing at Woodstock, and then Bend, and then San Francisco Doc Fest, Variety's writing about it. I'm like, how can I fail with my second film? Like, I've done this before, and but I went in too cocky, basically. I'm like, oh yeah, I've done this before, but I didn't remember like how much work it is, and how you really need to stick behind the computer and do all that same work that you did before. It just doesn't come naturally to like, okay, well, you're now the gifted. There's no gifted in crowdfunding. It's just you got to put in the hours, you got to put in the time, you got to put in the energy. So when I had to get back up my horse and like start my Ginger Girls project crowdfunding campaign again and be like, okay, I'm really doing this, I'm really serious now, I spent 35 days planning an event, and I did it at Dylan's Candy Bar in New York City, and it was great. I did a ginger fashion show, and I had 100 people there, I had press, and that really launched the campaign, and then it was a success. So putting that time into doing a physical live launch campaign, because it's not just about the money, and I think a lot of people, when they're doing a crowdfunding campaign, they're like, oh, well, I have to get that amount of money. I'm like, actually, you know, what's really better is like all the energy and the marketing that goes into it. It's like priceless. So yeah, definitely do a launch event for that emotional connection.
Tell me a little bit about the event, because I think having a successful event is a combination of art and science. There are clearly some things that are common threads for a successful launch event, and I agree. When I first started crowdfunding, I didn't buy into the launch event idea. I'm now as religiously convinced of its importance as you are. So what do you do to make and create a successful launch event?
Well, one thing I did is I put it on my vision board. I created a vision board. This is the first time I actually found out like what a vision board was, and I put that I wanted to do. It was on my birthday, so birthday is a great day to start your campaign, because people are thinking like, oh, I'm going to give you a gift anyway. Why don't I give it to your project rather than a dumb sweater? Let's say. So that's basically what I did, is I put it on my vision board, and I created even cards. Like, I didn't even know how much it was to rent the space or anything, but I made out these. I had these special little Prince cards, and I wrote out 8 invitations, and I wrote out who it was going to send to, and I didn't mail it, but I said, oh, this is really, like, energetically, this is what's going to happen. And then when I went to book it, it was available. They gave it to me at a great rate, and it was, you know, like, it was perfect. It was the best launch event. But have it be, you know, like, your launch event really has to click with what type of project you're doing. So I did a launch event for my next film, Little Fishes, at a surf shop. And since it was a narrative film, and we shot it in Santa Monica, and we actually shot at that specific surf shop, it was a paddleboard shop, that they were like, sure, of course you can have your party here. You know, they're not going to charge me. It's more people coming to their store, right? You know, and then we ordered a burrito from right next door. You know, we supported the community. And then that was a smaller event, but it was still the same effect. So it's not even about the number. You know, you could still have 25 people there and still have this, it's like quality versus quantity, really, because it's that essence that you're putting out into the universe. Like, you're saying, like, hey, I'm doing this thing, you're telling the universe, but how about you amplify that by 25 people, by 100 people? You know,
right.
The energy, yeah.
Well, fantastic. Alexia, it's been so fun to have you. It's great to visit with you. I love what you're doing, and I'm thrilled to get your insights as one who's done so much successful crowdfunding. Really, it's invaluable, and I thank you for having taken the time to be with us today. So can you tell people how to connect with you? I realize there are all kinds of people who are listening and participating today who want to connect with you in one way or another, for one thing or another, but give us some ideas of how people can engage with you.
Sure, yeah. You can go to my website, which is alexiaanastasio.com, and all my links for Facebook and Twitter or Instagram are all there. I'm available for, like, if you want to hit me up on Twitter and say repost my campaign link, I'm totally up for that. I mean, we're all in this together, sort of thing. My next class goes live October 8th, and it's pay what you wish. So if you want to jump in, like, it's really, I'm really loving the supportive community that is growing, and that's what it's all about. So.
Oh, fantastic. Alexia, thank you very much for joining us today.
Welcome. Thank you.
All righty. Let's do some good.